The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max NXT Review.
Are you sure he knows he's not allowed to appear on the podcast tonight, Brandon?
I would hope so.
I'm willing to bet that he's going to try to make an appearance anyway.
I'm sure he will.
Bad Wilford. No podcast. Oh, hi everybody, and welcome into the Wrestling to the Max NXT review for Wednesday, August 15th, 2018. I am your host for NXT, at least for now, until Gary decides to come back and take over the ship. And what a piece of ship it is. My name is Harry Broadhurst. The guffawing laughter that you just heard there is the voice of my co-host, Brandon Biskobing.
Hey.
Man, I miss the days when I was only doing 2 podcasts a week.
So do I.
Heck, I miss the days when I was only doing 3. This 5 crap is for the birds. Eesh. So have you spoken to Liz about the potential for... Have you spoken to Liz about the potential for me sitting in for SummerSlam? Because, I need to put something else on my plate.
Oh, you actually want to join us?
I told you at the end of the NXT 205 review that I was in for SummerSlam.
Okay. You're right.
Don't pay attention to me.
I do remember. I remember we're doing it on Monday, and you're going to sit in.
And Connor Cook is from Michigan State, not Illinois. That's a kickoff call back to anybody who may have listened to that.
You had a Steve moment.
Well, look at the bright side. At least I didn't tweet him about it on Twitter.
True. Very true.
Oh, thanks. All right. So we have a go-home edition of NXT in order to get to Takeover on Saturday, and then we have Takeover to preview. So we got a couple of things to get to here. Brandon, what do you say we get to it?
Let's do it.
All right. They bring the swag like nobody can. And a bag, and I got it. Yeah.
Gotta love me some Street Profits.
I think it's in the bag, and I got it. Yeah, but I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
Either way, first we talk about what happened with Aleister Black last week because, he got jumped. Apparently busting his balls wasn't enough. They had to write him out on television, too.
Why you can't say balls Mahoney, dude.
I can't say busting his balls Mahoney?
Nope.
I'm glad you actually caught the bit there. Well played, sir. I'm impressed. Okay, well, then let's see if you catch this one. Our opening contest, scheduled for...
One fall.
Is the aforementioned Street Profits taking on the former TM61, now known as The Mighty. And as we all know, The Mighty don't kneel.
And also The Mighty fall.
They do lose, however.
You see that segue I just did right there?
Segue! You missed a bit. Come on, man. And
that's your thing. You handle that.
That is my thing. I do get kind of pitchy for that. But anyway, the Mighty do fall, as I mentioned here, at 6:22 when Montez Ford reverses I believe, Shane Thorne cradle and gets the 3 count using a tights assist here. I like both of these teams. I like the Mighty as a team. I like the Street Profits as a team. But let's be honest here. The tag team division in NXT is basically on hold until the War Raiders get their shot coming out of NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4, correct?
Yeah, which is a little disappointing because Street Profits, at least to me, seem like the new version of Heavy Machinery, basically a very good team that a lot of people like that's actually homegrown, yet they're not really being used much at all in NXT.
Well, at least they're not being used in marquee slots. I'm sure Angelo Dawkins is happy just to be making television again.
True.
This is the first we've seen of Montez Ford, and I think Montez actually has solo star potential whereas Dawkins is going to kind of be that tag team guy for most, if not all, of his NXT career.
I would love to see Street Profits do something together because they're just great. But I have a feeling you're probably right that, this is going to be another one of those situations where either A, they're going to get called up and get bastardized on the main roster together, or they'll break up at some point.
Backstage, Shayna Baszler gives Aliyah ideas and potential moves to use in her match with Kairi Sane a little bit later on in the show. Let's completely forget the fact that one of the first people that Shayna Baszler targeted when she started taking out people in NXT was Aliyah.
I mean, it is the prototypical heel type move, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type situation where she's just trying to give her tips so that she can diminish some of Kairi's power going into TakeOver.
Undisputed Era promo here. All three of them talk about their upcoming matches at TakeOver Brooklyn 4. O'Reilly and Roderick Strong get Mustache Mountain. We'll see a preview of that a little bit later on in the show. Adam Cole,
baby,
talks about his match with one and only Ricochet. Thank you for the sound effect. Appreciate it. We need sound effects, Sean. Anyway. And both matches are set there. We go into a video package a little bit later on that we might as well cover here as well, previewing the one and only Ricochet taking on Adam Cole,
baby,
for the North American Championship in what could be a show stealer at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. But at the same time,
definitely.
You can pretty much say that about every match on this card.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a bad-looking match on this card. This has potential to be, and I know potential is a dangerous word, but this has potential to be the best TakeOver ever.
I think, and what's cool about this card is that different styles are represented. Gargano and Ciampa, yeah, they can put on a great technical match, but I think this is going to be more of the brutal, hardcore type match, especially with the stipulation involved and the rivalry that they've had. The big technical match is going to be Ricochet against Cole. And then you have kind of a more character-based, more grounded type match in EC3 versus Velveteen.
Yeah, we'll be touching on all of these matches here in a little bit as we go forward towards the predictions and stuff that we have at the end of the show here. Not to mention, most of the rest of these matches still have stuff to talk about on tonight's edition of the show. Up next, as a matter of fact, in a match scheduled for one fall, is the aforementioned Aliyah taking on Kairi Sane. I want to say Aliyah's getting better, but I'm not entirely sure that she is in a match where she gets almost no offense.
I mean, she got a tiny bit of offense, towards the beginning, and then it was just completely Squash City.
I smell something.
Yeah, I smell squash.
It smells like squash. The Anchor puts down Aliyah after a trio of insane elbows and Sane pulling Aliyah up at 2, which I don't agree with for Kairi's
No. I was just going to mention that. Do you like the fact that she showed some brutality here, or does it not fit her at all? I agree with you. It doesn't fit at all, and it kind of makes you wonder, okay, is she a little unhinged?
Well, the question then becomes, does it become like a Ciampa Gargano situation where Kairi finds herself obsessed with Shayna Baszler, and we all see how well that's worked out for Gargano?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
All the same, the Anchor does tap out Aliyah staring straight at Shayna Baszler as she applies the move, which I actually thought was a pretty cool visual.
Mm-hmm.
And we move forward between the women of NXT going to that women's title match at TakeOver Brooklyn. The aforementioned one and only Ricochet and Adam Cole,
baby,
vignette airs here. We move on and come back into the arena where Velveteen Dream. I think I did pretty well there, actually.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Although I can't do the DREAM, yeah. Velveteen talks about the fact that the fans are fickle and that they were rooting for Velveteen, but at the same time, most of those same fans were probably laughing when EC3 showed up and took advantage of Velveteen at his own personal experience. EC3 decides to interrupt the Dream Over proclamation by asking if this is what it sounds like when doves cry, which I popped for, can't lie. That made me laugh. It's very rare that we get a good Prince reference in wrestling nowadays. B makes fun of Velveteen's fanny pack, which completely disagree. Velveteen was rocking that fanny pack. Mm-hmm. And C states that it is a bad idea for Velveteen to try to get inside of EC3's head because EC3 has made a career out of making headspace in his opponent's heads, including what's going to happen at TakeOver here when he gets firmly inside of the head of the Velveteen Dream and moves one step further up the ladder here in NXT. The two gentlemen throw down. Velveteen looks for the rolling DVD, but EC3 counters out of it, hits the TK3, and the man who's in the top 1%. I weirded myself out by starting mid-verse there. I kind of threw myself off because I am the top 1%. Okay, that's better. EC3 stands tall going towards TakeOver Brooklyn. I feel like I'm saying TakeOver Brooklyn a lot. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're going to have to add the tag TakeOver Brooklyn to the show just because I've said TakeOver Brooklyn so many times that I can't stop saying TakeOver Brooklyn. Never mind. Video package on Aleister Black's attack, and holy crap, they showed a backstage attack, and a murder mystery broke out. What the Sam hell just happened?
I'm just, Triple H is a lot better at doing this on NXT than we get on the main roster, obviously, but, I really hope this doesn't become one of those things where they do all of this hype over, who done it and all of that, and then I don't know how long Black is going to be out for. Have you seen anything?
In ring, he's probably out for 4 to 6.
Okay, so 4 to 6 months.
Weeks.
Okay, only weeks?
So he's missing TakeOver Brooklyn. I said it again. I'm telling you, we could have a drinking game for how many times I've said that in this episode. You would be plastered by now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm going to try not to say those specific words again until we're actually talking about the show. He's out for that show. He's out for the tapings immediately following. But my assumption is he'll be back for the September tapings.
Okay. So it's not as bad as I thought. Because you know how WWE is when they have a long-form storyline, especially when someone isn't in the picture for an extended period of time, where they try to build it up when they first leave and then completely forget about it by the time they're back. Granted, they did a very good job with with Ciampa, because, he's still stuck to what he was doing when he came back after being injured. So I have faith that they are going to stick with this with Black, but, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this, especially on that first taping where he definitely won't be, there at all. So will they just wait and focus on it on the next series of tapings?
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I think he will be there for that taping at Full Sail. He just won't wrestle.
Well, yeah, probably.
We could get the Steve Austin Rikishi gimmick where they're going through the suspects and figuring out, okay, so he was there, so he couldn't have done it. He has an alibi, so he couldn't have done it.
That's true.
Could Shayna Baszler have thwacked him from behind?
That would actually be a cool way of keeping it in the limelight while at the same time not forcing him to be physical at all, is by having him in, what did he have injured?
His groin.
Oh, okay, so we wouldn't have a sling or anything like that, but, they could just show him looking and seeing, okay, who has... What?
Are you asking his injury from a kayfabe perspective or from a
No,
real?
from a real perspective.
Yeah, it was his groin.
Oh, okay.
As mentioned at the top of the show, he quite literally busted his balls.
Oh, you're right.
Go ahead and continue. I apologize for cutting you off.
It's okay. Keeping him on screen and having this story be in the forefront for that first set of tapings, and then kind of have him, like, you know, either figure it out or at least be close by the end of that taping, and then once he's ready to come back full force, then they can do some more things with it.
All right, I'm gonna put you up against the wall here, Brandon. Make your prediction now. Who's the man responsible for the attack? We don't have all day, Brandon.
I'm trying to think here because I'm gonna say Ciampa, but I would not be at all surprised if it's Gargano either.
Neither of those two, in my opinion. Me and Andrew Ballas had this conversation on the reaction on Monday night.
Okay.
And both of us had different people, but both of us have very interesting spins on why they were who they were.
Okay.
His was actually somebody shown in this vignette, too. Cassius Ohno.
That would be odd, especially considering he's been a face pretty much this whole time, unless they're going to turn him heel.
Sick of his role as the gatekeeper of NXT, ready to become the star.
Okay, fair enough.
My prediction is a man not shown in the vignette, the debuting Matt Riddle.
That would actually be a cool way of bringing him in. I'd like that a lot if they did do that. The only thing about it, though, and he was probably losing at Brooklyn anyway, but you would think, especially with him, you know, in essence losing his rematch clause in this scenario, you would think that he would have to have his rematch, so wouldn't it make sense to have it be either Ciampa or Gargano? And not only is he trying to get his title back, but he's trying to get revenge on them as well.
I mean, theoretically, that's a way you could go with it, but at the same time, they could also use this as a way to build up intrigue for Alistair's chase back to the title as well. He has to go through the man who took him out of his guaranteed rematch in the first place.
True. The only thing about that would kind of confuse me, and they'd have to do a very good job of figuring out how to get this to work, is for anyone other than Gargano or Ciampa, you can't just say, oh, you know, basically do the Ministry of Darkness, or not Ministry of Darkness, the, what was it? What was it called? Like the Entity or something with McMahon and Austin?
The Greater Power.
Greater Power, there we go. You can't have it like the Greater Power where it's just like, it was me, Black, it was me all along, and like just, or like what happened with The Rock Stone Cold, Triple H, and Rikishi, which they basically derived this from.
I did it for The Rock.
Yeah, like, don't have it be all convoluted. If you're gonna have it be someone other than those two, have a legitimate, full-force reason for why they did it. Have it make sense.
Yeah, I think there's definitely many ways that this can go, and I trust Triple H and his writing staff. No, Princess, you do not get to be part of the podcast.
All the animals are trying to get into this podcast.
I'm telling you, we are the favorite podcast to pets everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying here. The one thing I will say is I trust Triple H and his NXT scheme to tell this story much more convincingly and much more coherently than I would, say, the Monday Night Raw creative staff.
Definitely.
SmackDown, I think, could pull this off as well, because SmackDown's been on a roll for like the last month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yet again, getting back to the glory days of like SmackDown 02 and such.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got all these guys over on the Blue Brand just busting ass in order to make sure that the show comes off as awesome as it can. Speaking of things that are awesome, the Gargano Ciampa video package airs here. Man, when they put their minds to it, can this company create a video package or what?
Oh, yeah. Hey, two great packages 2 nights in a row. First, the whole Daniel Bryan and Miz thing and showing their history, and now this.
A video recap. I guess technically this would be a second package in a row, but it's more of a recap to let you know that Bianca Belair is training. She is in the Performance Center getting ready to return from her injury, air quotes on an audio podcast. In reality, Belair took time off for her honeymoon with the man who recently made his return as well, Montez Ford.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I forgot to bring up that we didn't really talk too much about it, so that's why it kind of slipped my mind. But did you notice a weird cut during the EC3 Velveteen Dream promo thing back and forth?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming some of that was edited for time.
Oh, you think it was just for time? You don't think anyone screwed up or anything like that?
No, what I think happened is especially since they had to cut in the stuff with Alistair's injury.
That's true. That's a good point.
Our main event is scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
And it is a preview match for the tag team title match in Brooklyn. I did not say the name of the show. Does not count. No drinks. As Tyler Bate, one half of Mustache Mountain, takes on Roderick Strong, accompanied by Kyle O'Reilly, but not accompanied by Adam Cole!
Baby!
I just enjoy having us get that in as many times.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's part of the shtick.
It is.
And we are full of... moving on. Sean hates when I do that, but that just makes it funnier to me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, nice little back and forth match here. They go 8.5 minutes. Tyler Bate picks up the win with the Tyler driver, and I am collectively kicking rocks over here because it upsets my predictions for Saturday. Your thoughts on the match?
It was a decent match. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, they had a very good technical match, and it was very entertaining.
It definitely picks up a bit at the end there as
yes.
Tyler counters out at the end of Heartache, goes for the Tyler driver, but that gets countered out by Roderick. Roderick lifts Tyler up onto his shoulders and goes for Death by Roderick. In case anybody doesn't remember the move, it is the Fireman's Carry double gut buster that Darren Young used to call the gut check. Fireman's Carry, military press up into a double knee gut buster.
Mm-hmm.
Strong calls it Death by Roderick, or at least he did. Bate counters into the crucifix for 2. A little bit later on, another reversal sequence leads to Bop and Bang, and then the Kaipo kick takes us directly into the Tyler Driver 97 for the pinfall. Any thoughts on the fact that Bate actually picked up the win here? I mean, I know about the match. Does it throw you off towards Saturday? Does it change your prediction based on what you would have had, or does it solidify what you were going to predict in the first place?
It solidifies what I was going to predict in the first place.
All right. And that officially wraps us up for the go-home episode of NXT going towards TakeOver Brooklyn. Drink!
Real quick question, because we kind of glossed over this as well. It didn't look like, first off, the fact that he's actually on TV with them again, and it didn't look like he had anything on him or anything, is
October.
Wow, what?
October for Bobby Fish.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Is that what you were about to ask?
Yes, that's what I was about to ask, is if he was cleared or not.
The general belief is October or November, so just in time for War Games.
Okay.
There you go. Answered your question before you could even ask it. I got you, homie. You know what else we got? Final scores for this week's episode of NXT TV. Scale of 1 to 10, Bizko, where do you fall?
I'll give this an 8. It was a very good show. Definitely built towards towards Takeover Brooklyn. There, I say it for the first time in the show. And not only that, you have to give the NXT production crew and Triple H and everyone in the back tons of credit for having to call that audible last minute and being able to put in everything that they need to in order to amp up the updated card while still keeping the show that they were originally planning on putting on here still intact.
And not to mention the fact that they managed to turn it into a little bit of a murder mystery, kind of a whodunit as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I figured they were going to do that.
But maybe not as coherently as they pulled this off here, because they have so many suspects sneaked into there, including a couple of people who we didn't even mention when we were talking earlier, such as Marcel Bartel. Hold on, who were the three? The three.
Fabian Eichner was on there.
Fabian Eichner, Marcel Bartel, and who was the third one?
I think Cesar Bononi, maybe?
Cesar Bononi, yeah. And then the Forgotten Sons of Steve Cutler, Wesley Blake, and the NXT television debut of Jackson Riker, the former Gunner from TNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that they put all of these different people in, and not, most of the time when they do one of these backstage things, they just focus on the actual, the main people that are involved in what's going on. Most of the time they would just have, Regal and Black there. But they went out of their way to get almost half, it felt like, at least to me, almost half of the NXT roster involved in this whole shoot so that they could have this whole murder mystery and actually have reasonings for asking if they did it. It was very cohesively and very well played. Very well planned out and laid out.
And executed.
Exactly.
And your opinion is it was Tommaso Ciampa in the parking lot with the title belt?
Precisely.
Mm. I'm still blaming Professor Plum, but that's just me. I'm a little bit lower than you are, but not much. I'm at a 7.5. And the reason I'm at a 7.5 is because while we got a good match on this NXT, and while we got a pretty interesting segment between EC3 and Velveteen, the video packages were on point for the title matches, but not having that big driving go-home for your title match kind of hurts the belt a little bit, and we have seen better episodes of NXT TV in the recent build. After a rare misstep a couple of weeks ago, NXT TV does find its form again here tonight, though. Or, yesterday, technically. Mm-hmm. This Thursday evening.
Yep.
Hi, Wilford. How are you?
He's saying hello, apparently.
He is. It's okay. Princess appeared, Wilford appeared, everybody's happy. Are we doing the one-word review gimmick here, since that's kind of our shtick?
Yeah, might as well.
All right, what's your word?
My one word is improv. Like I mentioned when I was talking about when I did my rating, the fact that they were able to still stick with everything that they had planned for this episode while also getting all of the necessary stuff for Ciampa versus Gargano and what happened with Black in there and still have it at the same runtime, with the only time that there felt like there was even potentially any sort of cuts was during that one kind of awkward cut between Velveteen Dream and EC3 when EC3 came out. And that was it. That was the only time you ever noticed anything that said, oh, maybe they cut something out. So the fact that they were able to still keep the show very fluid and keep it intact shows how good they are at doing this.
Very similar one word, and it begins with the same letter. Yours was improv. Mine is intrigued.
Okay.
Because of the whodunit there, I'm actually curious to see how this is going to play out on NXT television coming out of TakeOver Brooklyn. Drink! Okay, we're not going to do that the rest of the show because my voice is already starting to hurt from.
Well, there'll probably only be one more time that you say it, and it'll be right now as we get ready for predictions.
Predictions of what, Brandon?
Takeover Brooklyn.
Drink! Okay, I'm done. In all sincerity here, we got a 5-match card here, which is a little odd considering they announced that the starting time for this pay-per-view has been pushed forward by an hour, so we're probably running 3 hours for this pay-per-view.
You really think they're going to run 3 hours?
I think we're going to go 7 to 10 Eastern Standard here.
Huh. Okay.
Could be interesting, and hopefully a sign of things to come, although if I'm NXT, I might consider doing 6 matches on a TakeOver rather than 5, in addition to having the couple that they taped before the show, which they did announce that the pre-show match for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn
Drink
is Pete Dunne defending the NXT UK Championship against Liverpool's number 1, Zach Gibson.
So that's going to be the match that's going to be on
Next week.
NXT next week.
Just remember, Pete Dunne, never walk alone.
Where is Pete Dunne from again?
Blackpool, I think.
Okay.
I think he has that same Regal thing from Blackpool. I'm not sure, but I think it's Black. I'll look that up while we're doing predictions.
I remember there was one guy in the UK tournament, the first UK tournament, that was from Manchester, but I forget who it was.
But let's get into the card itself here and our opening contest, and in my opinion, the probable actual opening contest for this show is the NXT North American title match as Adam Cole,
baby,
takes on one and only Ricochet. Go ahead and give me your thoughts here, Brandon.
See, this is honestly a tough one. This is probably the toughest one, in my opinion, on this card, because on one hand, I'm thinking Adam Cole,
baby,
he's had the title for a few months now, but I still think he needs that one big win to really put the title over as a top title on NXT. And the fact that Undisputed Era would, especially if it's going to be the opening match, you would think that they'd be more so focused on the tag team title match, so they may not necessarily interfere in this match. So at the same time, I'm thinking maybe Ricochet pulls it off as his big win to really solidify his place in NXT. I think they're going to still go with a little bit of a chase, especially since this is the first match between the two, at least singles-wise. So I think Adam Cole
baby
wins, but I don't think this will be the end of their feud. I think there will be some sort of shenanigans to where Cole retains.
Well, I think that both this and the tag team title match are going to bleed over into TakeOver War Games. Because I feel like you're looking for 4-on-4 inside of War Games, the completely reunited Undisputed Era of Adam Cole,
baby,
Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish taking on Ricochet, Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, and Tyler Bate inside of the War Games double cage.
That would actually be an interesting match.
That being said, I think one member of the Undisputed Era retains. I think one member of the Undisputed Era loses their title. Which kind of gives away my prediction here. As Adam Cole,
baby,
retains against Ricochet. That takes us directly into the tag team title match as... Oh, by the way, Pete Dunne is from Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
So it's not him from Manchester. I'll keep looking and see if I can't find the Manchesterian for you, and I'll let you know.
Fair enough.
But anyway, that takes us into the tag team title match as the Undisputed Era's Kyle O'Reilly, that air guitaring sumbiscuit. You know what? Part of me doesn't want them to lose the titles just because I enjoy O'Reilly's air guitar so much.
Definitely. I agree.
That the man can air guitar.
Mm-hmm.
and Roderick Strong take on the men from Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate and Trent Seven.
I think I think Undisputed Era has to retain here. I think Undisputed Era, they're gonna really try to literally take over NXT in this spot, and then I think what's gonna be the cause of the War Games match will be them gloating and everything, and then the faces will say, "Hey, you guys think you're so good together? Well, then face us." And, they may try to be the chicken heels and say no, but William Regal, in his infinite wisdom, will make the match. And then the faces will win at War Game, thus setting up more title matches at Takeover. I don't know if they even announced the spot for Royal Rumble yet.
Phoenix,
okay.
I am not finding a specific person listed as from Manchester. I'll keep you up to date, though.
I remember there was one, though.
With that being said, I return back to my prediction for the tag team title match here, and I mentioned that I had one part of the Undisputed Era keeping their title, the other part of the Undisputed Era losing their title. Well, if Adam Cole,
baby,
retains, I think you know where that leaves the team of Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. It leaves them dropping the belt back to the boys from Mustache Mountain.
We're losing the air guitar.
We're losing the air guitar. The way that I think this goes down is because of all the titles involved here. When you have the match at Takeover War Games 2, the winning side gets opportunities at all NXT championships that they do not currently possess. I.e., if the Undisputed Era wins, then they'd get a crack at the heavyweight title, the tag team titles, and the North American Championship.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
This could be the opportunity to push Adam Cole towards the main event in NXT, because you could have him take on whomever the champion is and then forfeit the North American title or lose it to somebody on his way to his NXT championship opportunity. And then you can continue the situation between the Undisputed Era and Mustache Mountain, but with a healthy Bobby Fish, you could go back to Redragon taking on Mustache Mountain rather than the thrown together team of O'Reilly and Strong.
Yeah. You know what I would love to see happen? I know it more than likely won't happen, and some fans are probably going to hate me for saying this, but especially with how Tommaso Ciampa has been hailed as such a good heel and everything. While, yes, some wrestling fans may not like it, it would be the ultimate heel type move. If Adam Cole is going to get, if he finagles a way to get a world title opportunity, he says, okay, I'm going to have a match against probably Roderick Strong, well, definitely Roderick Strong, for the for the North American title, and he lays down for Strong, giving Strong the title, while he moves on, wins the NXT title, and then Redragon wins the tag titles, and they just go on a reign of terror with all of them holding belts.
So what you're saying is Undisputed is a mystery?
Yes, precisely.
I don't know how Lemmy did that. Ow. Moving on. The NXT women's title is on the line as Kairi Sane challenges Shayna Baszler.
This is another one of those that's honestly a toss-up for me, because on one hand, I think they're trying to build Baszler as this, dominant heel that no one can stop. But I think the only person, at least currently, on the women's roster that I see as a legitimate threat, especially because she beat her already, is Kairi Sane. So this would be the most likely scenario, I think, for her to win it, and moving the title onto her, and then having Shayna having to try to beat her down to get back. So I think I gotta go with Kairi here.
I'm going to agree with you, but I think for a different reason. To me, Shayna Baszler doesn't need NXT. At this point,
True.
Shayna doesn't need NXT. Kairi can carry the women's division in NXT. You can have Kairi work with the two newest members of the Horsewomen that are coming in now, Marina Shifrin and Jessamine Duke. You have Candice LeRae, you have Bianca Belair, you got Lacey Evans, you have a whole host of other women coming in with the Mae Young Classic 2 as well, that the NXT women's division is in perfectly capable hands. Bringing Baszler up to the main roster, especially as we get closer to Evolution, the all-women's pay-per-view, just seems like it makes the most sense to me.
True, especially if they're going to do something with Baszler and potentially Rousey.
So I'm going Kairi here, but that's because I think that this is towards the end of this is the swan song for Shayna in NXT.
Especially if you're correct, and if she ends up keeping this heel gimmick that she has on the main roster, I would love for her to basically, brag about the fact that, because it would be true, that she was the shortest tenured NXT person ever.
Jack Gallagher is from Manchester, England.
Oh, okay, there we go.
As is Neville.
Yes. Well, no, Neville's from Newcastle.
Well, he's listed as Manchester according to Axis.
Huh. That's weird.
Pete Dunne's also listed from Manchester as well, but I know for a fact that's not accurate. Then again, the site has Drew McIntyre listed from Manchester, and he's from Scotland, so...
What the hell?
Yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong.
That's weird.
Stupid. Yes, 100%. Yes. But I believe Gallagher would be the person in question here.
Yes.
Tyler Bate is from Dudley, England.
I've always wondered who Gallagher's team is.
He strikes me as a City fan.
Damn it.
Anywho,
you're probably right, but...
Anywho, conversation about UK's Manchester-specific wrestlers aside here. Let's move on to the non-title match on this show, because 4 of the 5 titles are defended on the main card. One of them is defended on the pre-show. The match that isn't for a championship on this show, though, is EC3 and the Velveteen Dream.
This is another one that's honestly pretty tough to call, because on one hand I think Velveteen needs a win here more than EC3 does, but at the same time it seems like they've been using Velveteen as someone, basically a jobber to the stars lately, where he's the guy to put over the new top guys. And it certainly seems like they're going to try to push EC3 as a top guy. But at the same time, I could also see EC3 being used as kind of like a Ted DiBiase type character, where he's all talk about his money and he's the top 1% and all of that, yet he's not very successful in the ring. So I think I gotta go with Velveteen here.
EC3 wins. Velveteen is basically gatekeeper, much like Cassius Ono is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Velveteen's much longer for NXT either, because there's nothing really left for him to do down in NXT.
Oh God, please don't say that.
Okay, you say that, but at the same time, realistically speaking, NXT is supposed to be a gateway to the main roster. How they're treated on the main roster is discretionary. It's still supposed to be a gateway.
I get that, but
what's Velveteen got? What does Velvet have left to accomplish in NXT?
I don't know, maybe winning some matches and actually doing something? Well, he's going to be used worse than No Way Jose and Tyler Breeze combined on the main roster.
I don't know if I agree with that, brother.
Just look at his gimmick. Vince McMahon is going to have a field day, and not in the good way.
I mean, we shall see what happens. I have a little bit more faith than you do here, but at the same time, I have been wrong before, so we'll just have to see what happens. I do think EC3 is going to be one of those guys who we're talking about in the main event position for NXT going forward, and I made the prediction on the reaction that the main event for Takeover, the title match for Takeover War Games, would be a 4-way. I said the original 3 competitors and EC3 added to the match on the basis of his win here, or whoever attacked Alistair in that match.
Mm-hmm.
So
I could see that.
I'm saying EC3 picks up the win here in order to move towards the title shot at Takeover War Games 2.
I can see that.
Our main event is Last Man Standing as Johnny Gargano challenges Tommaso Ciampa.
I'm thinking, especially with their history and everything, and the fact that this, I mean, if rumors are correct, I still haven't seen anything definitive on this, but I thought I saw, like a while back, I thought I saw something that they're thinking of moving SummerSlam out of Barclays and maybe into a bigger venue next year. So this may be the last Takeover Brooklyn. Well, at least until potentially next year for Mania, depending upon where they decide to put. Well, I would assume it would be in Barclays, so it would be another Takeover Brooklyn, in theory.
It would be drink.
Yes, you got a lot of drinks right there. But
yes, next year at Mania will probably be TB5.
Yes. So maybe not as big as I once thought it would be, but especially on for the last time for SummerSlam weekend, I think they're gonna want to go out with a bang, and you gotta have the face win the rubber match, don't you?
No.
I think you do, but I think there's going to be a bit of a swerve where basically what started at New Orleans, or not New Orleans, at Chicago, with Ciampa basically goading Gargano into going into darker and darker waters. This is going to be that moment where, yes, Gargano is going to win, but he's basically going to lose himself in the process.
Okay, so here's my prediction, and just hear me out on this because it's a little lengthy.
Okay.
Sorry. First, Johnny Gargano does not need the NXT Championship. Second, Tommaso Ciampa doesn't need the NXT Championship, but it adds that much more heat to his character. Third, there's going to be a payoff with Aleister Black going forward with both of these gentlemen, which means that neither one of them is probably out of the title picture regardless of the finish to this contest. Fourth, the whodunit could play a very serious role come Takeover as well. And I would not be surprised, the man that I predicted to be the culprit behind it, making his debut at Takeover Brooklyn, and getting involved in this contest. Remember, it was at Takeover, which one was it, for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the referee stoppage.
Was that the first Brooklyn?
No, I don't think so. Because Owens would have lost the title to Balor at Beast in the East.
Right.
And Balor would have faced Joe at one of the Takeover Brooklyns, if I recall correctly.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
My point being, though, is that Joe debuted right after the main event at one of the earlier Takeovers and confronted Kevin Owens on the way that he won the title from Sami Zayn. I could see something similar here with Matt Riddle getting involved with the winner of this contest, or perhaps the loser of this contest, in order to help set the wheels in motion. It's him being the man behind the attack on Aleister Black.
That could be the case. The only thing about that is I have a feeling that they're going to want to build up this whole whodunit thing and actually have it play out on NXT TV for the first taping, like I mentioned. Or at least that's what I would like to see. But if Riddle is going to debut, I think it would be very much like how Adam Cole debuted last year, and maybe even attacking both of them and, having like a double count out or something.
Well, yeah, Adam Cole is actually a more apt comparison here because he was somebody that came in immediately after the main event of the Takeover show, and it was Takeover Brooklyn 3, no less, attacking Drew McIntyre.
Exactly.
So I'm saying that Tommaso Ciampa retains. I still think that Tommaso actually gets a victory here. I don't think it's a no contest. I don't think it's some kind of no decision. But I will say that I do feel like somebody is going to get involved in the post-match.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
I think that wraps us up, Brandon.
Yep.
Hold on 1 second here, and I will go into the full wrap-up. All right. Sorry. Girlfriend message, tap to respond. Is what it is. All right, everybody. So this has been our review of NXT TV and preview of TakeOver Brooklyn. Drink! With our predictions. I don't know if we're going to have a review of the show or not on Saturday night.
We'll have to talk about that. I mean, are you going anywhere, or...?
I have a show. I'm not going to be
okay.
I have an RAPW show. I'm not going to be able to watch until I watch it on a delay when I get home that night.
Okay, so if anything, it might be Liz and I.
If it's at all possible, I'd love to help, but if I'm going to be involved, it would have to be a double shot on Monday where we do TakeOver and SummerSlam back-to-back, and those are going to be two very lengthy shows. I'm not sure that we're going to want to do that.
Yeah, probably not.
So it might just be you and Liz for TB, and then me and you and possibly Liz for Slam on Monday.
Yes.
And then you and probably Liz for Monday Night Raw as well, the Raw after SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, you can listen to our previews of the other shows. The other show this weekend, WWE presents the 30th edition of SummerSlam 2018, or the 30th anniversary, the 31st SummerSlam 2018, as Brandon and Liz and Jason Teasley, I almost forgot about Jason. Brandon, Liz Puglisi, and Jason Teasley have the Monday Night Raw review. Myself and Brandon have the SmackDown Live review as well as the 205 Live review. We just did NXT here, and then you'll be able to check out TakeOver and SummerSlam this weekend or early into next week here on the W2M Network. Anything else to plug before we get out of here?
Well, did you talk about Kickoff?
I did not, but since that's a football show and this is a wrestling podcast, I think I would save that. But if you want to, we can here. The AFC preview episode of the Kickoff should be up in your timelines as well on many of these same places you listened to this NXT review here, be it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, CastBox. Hey, Brandon, guess what?
Spotify is here.
Way to flub the line there, buddy.
I had my mic muted. I was unmuting it.
Smooth. How long have you been muted for?
Not long at all.
Okay. Well, and Glacier is coming, we hope. He's Brandon Biskobing. I'm Harry Broadhurst. This has been the Wrestling to the Max NXT review for August 15th, 2018, here on the W2M Network. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.